Hello again, I'm still Ben, back to the hat to see what our topic is today. This one, which is Second Amendment rights. Oh, man, I'm already tired and my voice is going, and this is one of the big ones. All right, so this is a topic I think is going to split people up quite a bit, and how it has to go. I invite everyone to stick with me until the end, because I think there's elements of this that both sides are going to like, and that both sides are not going to like, because as usual, both sides are wrong, in case you guys haven't figured that out yet. Now, this is an extremely small amendment, so let's just read it. I have this next to me every day here, doing my recordings, just in case I pulled that one. So, boop, 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 doo, 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 doo. Second Amendment, not Seventh Amendment, Second Amendment. Amendment number 2 of the Constitution says, a well-regulated militia, capital M, being necessary to the security of a free state, capital S, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, capital A, shall not be infringed. So, what needs to happen with the Second Amendment and our right to bear arms here? First of all, none of this Constitution was framed or written without direct and very intentional wording. You know, there's all the people involved in it who framed it the first time, argued and made it happen. And all of those capital letters are very important. So while I think the left side of things is going to like this first part, stick with me, right side, because there's other concessions that I think if you listen to, you will like the outcome in some ways. And likewise, lefties, you know, don't get your panties in a twist about this, okay? There's a reason that this amendment exists. And I think in the recent years, we've actually started talking much more about the reason for it. And that's good, because people often forget that the purpose of this amendment was to allow the citizens of this nation to fight our own tyrannical government. That sounds pretty relevant these days. That sounds pretty relevant these days, isn't it? Okay, so first, number one thing you've got to realize is that the capital M militia is not Joe Bob and Dick Nuts making Hawaiian shirts for themselves with their names embroidered so they can go to a gun range every weekend and practice and buy a ton of guns and just have their fun. That is a capital M, which means it is a government agency. It is a government-run militia, okay? This is not something informal in any way. This should be regulated, as it is supposed to be well regulated, by the government itself, all right? So everything that you want to do as a gun owner, I do believe the government is supposed to have a say in. They are supposed to know what you have. You are supposed to register your weapons. All of those things don't infringe on your rights for doing it. You just don't want to have to do those sorts of things because you like being shady, some of you. Okay? Registering a weapon is not a problem. You have to register a driver's license. People don't complain about that nearly as much. But the point here is that I believe the way we compromise through America's incredibly toxic and violent gun culture is that we allow the government to be the training method for people who have guns, you know, and they're everywhere, you know, everybody's got some guns. There's a few here, or rather I should say, you know, my dad actually has all the guns right now, I think, and he's not even a gun person, you know. But all registered, all legal, everything bought from a store, you know, and whether you're going to a store or online or to a gun show, you know, you should have to register your weapons. This is normal, because if you go off the reservation, the government deserves to know what they're dealing with, the same way that we need to know what the government has and what they've got, you know. So in that purpose of fighting a tyrannical government, and here's, flipping back to the other side, we can't do that with single bolt action rifles and pistols, you lunatics. You think we're going to fight the army with those kinds of things? No. You should be allowed, absolutely, to have the kinds of weapons you can afford to buy, no matter what those weapons are here. See, I told you right, guys. I told you guys on the right that you should stick around. But the caveats here, the things that we have to compromise on, is the fact that I believe the price of these weapons needs to be built in with the government-mandated training. Because if we're talking about a government-run militia, capital M, for the state, capital S, that's not each individual state, that is the nation itself. So probably National Guard run, I would imagine. Maybe just Army run. I think it'll probably depend more on the kind of weapon you buy. But the price of said weapon needs to reflect the mandatory government training, I believe, is necessary. Because this is going to make me sound utterly insane to everybody, so no matter what side you're on, this is going to throw people off. Every time I see some mass shooter psycho out there shooting a bunch of people and murdering them, I can't help but think of how bad they are at it. They're such terrible shots. You go into a crowded place and you kill a few people when it's filled with people, you're terrible. You're terrible at these weapons. There's no weapon proficiency at all. And if we're talking about national security, the Japanese, long back in World War II, had admitted that they would never try to invade the United States because there would be a gun behind every blade of grass, right? You remember that quote? Yeah, that's exactly kind of how it is here. We've got plenty of guns, but the proficiency with them is terrible. So the government-mandated training needs to include be included on the price tag. So that means those of you who have entire bunkers and armories full of things, you really shouldn't. Okay, you should have a few weapons that you're incredibly proficient with instead of hundreds or thousands of weapons that maybe you shoot each one of them, in a cycle and kind of get to every one of them every now and then. That doesn't make you good with the guns, okay? Makes you terrible, in fact. And if we're talking about staying secure as a nation, no military, sorry military about this, but hey, no military has ever been the reason that a nation didn't crumble from within. Okay? It's never been military power. It's always been the power of the people here. So once we reflect the cost of mandated government training that as a gun owner, when you buy a new gun, you should have to go get, I think that's going to hedge out a lot of these gun collectors from being able to have all of these insane armories full of stuff. If you want some high superpowered weaponry, whether it's ARs or M16s or sniper rifles or anything like that, okay, that's reflected in the price and training too. If somebody from a special forces has to come train you on how to use a sniper rifle, the price for that rifle is going way, 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 way up, isn't it? So I think it's still fair to do, but you definitely have to register it. You definitely have to be trained. The government has to know who you are and know that you're good enough with your weapon that you've passed their classes. This is fair. This is fair and balanced. Okay? And I'm sorry to all the lefties who want to ban all the assault rifles. We don't need these for any reason. That is a different conversation. That is a conversation about repealing the Second Amendment or getting rid of it entirely or changing what it is. Because as it is now, it is definitely for the reason of fighting our own government if necessary. Okay? And I don't blame you if you don't like that, but that's what it is. So, don't attack the symptom of all of the guns in this country. Attack the source. If you don't like the Second Amendment, start finding a way to change it. But that's not what it says right now. So, sorry. I think it's fair to do this. I think it'll cut down on the amount of massive gun collection there is, and I think it will improve everyone's appreciation for how deadly and dangerous it is when the National Guard or the Army or whoever it is, probably from a practical sense, whatever military base is closest to you geographically would be have to where you report to in order to sign up as part of the well-regulated militia so that your name is on the list. Because again, capital M, it's not just your little gun boys club. Okay, it can't just be out there with absolutely nobody knowing what you've got. That's not fair. All right, that's the way it needs to go. I think that's the middle ground that everybody can agree on. We are allowed to have the weapons you want, but boy, it's going to cost you, and boy, you got to get trained on that, and everybody's going to know what weapon it is you've got. That seems fair to me in a modern sense where we've got drones doing a lot of the killing. You know, that's a problem. My name's Ben Howison. Sursum Corda.